Please note I'm not doing reversals when I'm looking at the deck. For this deck, I often don't. It just kind of depends. I'm not really feeling it today. This card here on the bottom of the deck is Hearthfire, which is represented by the Eight of Wands. Eight of Wands is a lot of communication coming in. It's a lot of passion. This is associated with the heart chakra. So this has to do with issues that might be pertaining to the hearth or heart chakra, right? It has to do with love, self-love, love for others. But again, the communication of that as well. The Hearthfire symbolically is everything that the family revolves around. So this is issues of family, most likely. That can be your chosen partner. That can be your kids. That can be your ancestors. In fact, we start off with this first here, which is the ancestor. The ancestor is the one who leads you back into the wisdom of the traditions, the ancients, those predecessors, those who came before you. The ancestor is wise. The ancestor has antlers, which is symbolic of antenna or higher communication, and communication with the spirit world. This is about going back to your roots to understand who you are, where you come from, where you're going, what is your destiny. We see as a neighbor here in the layout, we see the Queen of Stones. The Queen of Stones is typically earth sign, like Taurus, Virgo, or Capricorn. This is the bear. This is about rhythms. This is about going into the cave on a symbolic level. That is to say, when a bear goes into the cave for hibernation in the winter or in the late fall, filled with, they've been eating fat like you wouldn't believe. They go into the cave, they hibernate. It's during the winter that they give birth to their cubs, they nurse their cubs. And then when they emerge from the den in the spring, that's when they go out into the world and teach the cub what how to survive. The cub typically stays with the mom for about 2 years, learning how to fish for salmon, learning how to overturn trees for the grub beneath. So for some of you, this may be about feeling that strong connection to your parents or your grandparents or the wisdom of those who taught you, maybe connecting with your own children, teaching them things, teaching them how to read or to write or how to hunt or to fish or to cook. This is really strong wisdom and powerful energy. And if you're not close with your parents, if they're deceased, this can also be about that longing for that, and also finding fulfillment in other ways. Is there some other symbolic way that you can connect with your parents or your grandparents if they're no longer living? How might you be able to bring forward some of that energy? If you need your own learning, this can be about going into books and learning about the wisdom, learning from the wisdom of those that have come before you in that sense. Journals and diaries. Even things like Ancestry.com that can connect you with some of your roots. Now, this other card here is also a card of family. Page of Stones is about laying the foundation for earth issues, manifestation on a earth plane. The page is maybe a younger person, also could be a Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. But this is about nesting and protection of the home. The wren is a small bird compared to a lot of the other birds, but it can be very, very fierce when defending the nest from invaders and so on. So this has to do with that, again, that protection of family, love of family, bringing forward that energy. Natural cycles and rhythms, things that you would do at an age-appropriate time. There's things you do with your 8-year-old that you may not do with your 2-year-old, but you can lay the groundwork with the 2-year-old. Example, camp craft or counting, or sports and games like that. Anything that you do to pass on your wisdom to the next generation or to receive wisdom from the generation that came before you. And being very protective of that. So for a lot of you, again, just like we saw with the Hearthfire, this is about love of family, caring for your family, lots of passion. We do see Thanksgiving coming up, so this has a lot to do with it as well. You'll notice with our bear over here, there's these bones of whatever it's been eating. some kind of a carcass. And then the rest that comes before that. I mean, I can't help but think of Thanksgiving, how people pig out on Thanksgiving and then they pass out. You pig out, you pass out. You know, maybe you watch a football game if you can get an eye open. So a lot of us are going to be coming together with our families for traditional celebrations and feast. Happy times. These are very happy times for most of you. Now, the sun could be a Leo, potentially. The sun is the planetary ruler for the horoscope sign of Leo. But this is really just the happiest card in the deck. And this has a lot to do with that, right? Now, for some of you, too, it can involve some kind of a clearance. And the sun can be about the illumination that comes when you clear away the things that are toxic. Example, toxic thinking. Maybe for some of you, you've been thinking in some kind of a way and you have a dawning awareness, a realization, perhaps in connecting with a family member. You're able to understand some situation or some person in your family better. You're able to clear the air with someone, drawing on ancient wisdom or the wisdom from your parents or your forebears. And that can lead to great happiness and joy, clearing out the shadows so that you can feel happy and connected again. At the center of the reading, we have the Justice card, right? Our Justice card is associated with Libra and with the sign of Venus. Justice is, we recently had a Venus retrograde, which had a lot to do with going within and getting right with our yin energy. And, you know, men and women, masculine and feminine, they all have a yin side and a yang side as well. It's just to what degree, how we balance that, and we find balance with our partners in that energy as well. But justice has to do with coming to right conclusions in right mind. Understanding something, being right about something, or having a happy legal issue that's resolved. I see also in your present issues of protection, which ties me back to this Ren energy. Some of you may be trying to protect someone that you care about, someone in your family, from the blistering effects of the sun, too much sun. Sometimes people celebrate too much. They take it too far. They get too drunk. There could be a protection, a legal issue. Some people may get in trouble driving under the influence of alcohol. And you, Aries, may be trying to help your family member square that. Just like we saw here that the sun is the happiest card in the deck. Coming next, we see this protection where the deer, there's a fawn in here, is seeking protection from too much sun. It's gotten burnt at this point. While I don't feel that necessarily chips away at the happiness that you felt at the previous moment, when I tie these two together, it could be that there is some kind of a legal thing and you're trying to protect someone you love from that. Example, driving under the influence. Maybe they get caught up in legal trouble because of it. Too much partying, too much fun. This could be something that is coming to bear, literally, figuratively, metaphorically, because it's their time. You know, you can only drive under the influence so many times before you get caught. It's fate in that way. Now, some people are better at getting away with it than others, but whatever. So possible legal issues, and you're trying to do some kind of protection for that. For some of you, for this clearance, it could be that you're setting boundaries with people that are taking it to an extreme and saying that you don't want to, you're done with it. Because coming forward, we have this Ren, this protectiveness of your home. You don't want bad elements or uncomfortable situations being brought into your home at the end of the month here, into your Thanksgiving. Sometimes there's being done with something and setting that limit and saying, no way. This is the world tree. That's about completion of a major cycle. So for some of you, you have found some clarity, some connection with your ancestral roots. Again, I'm thinking around the holiday of Thanksgiving, but you may not celebrate that. Whether you do or not, this still is a time of year. The fall is just that time of year where we go inside of ourselves and we try to understand what we've been doing in the masculine parts of the year. Once we hit that autumnal equinox, we're kind of going within into more of a yin energy. It's more internal. It's more reflective. It's more introspective. It's less active and more inactive. But there still is activity that goes on underneath the soil. But until we get to that kind of spring equinox where we see that the sun has won out over the moon cycle. And that's just earth science. You think about it, right? The days are the shortest now from the autumnal equinox until the spring equinox. That's how we see it. We have less light and more night, and that's going to flip come spring. But until then, we're kind of in that feminine, dark of the moon type energy. This is all just about playing out cycles. The world tree is completion of a cycle, but so is our Queen of Stones, the bear. There is, however, a happy thread in here. The Three of Cups is about joy and celebration. 3 of the 4 elements are represented here. Although I could say if you've ever seen a sandhill crane dancing, they are absolutely beautiful. I had the privilege of seeing some in February when I was hiking around a lake with my dog. Absolutely beautiful. But, you know, they seek their food out of the water. They fly in the sky. That's air element. They nest on the ground or on trees that are rooted deeply in the ground. So that's earth element. So they bring all of these different elements together into their lives, and they manage to sustain their lives through doing multiple things, multiple ways. It's really a great symbol of balance. They got these big bird bodies on these skinny little stork legs, you know. They're really majestic animals. And 3 of Cups, you know, 3 itself is a sacred number. Maid, mother, crone. Father, Son, Holy Ghost. It's a sacred number. It's about 2 people who come together and they give birth to a third. In that you can say there's the individual spirit of each person in the relationship, but then when they come together, there's an additional energy. It could be literally a child, could just be the combination energy of the 2 of them together, what they can accomplish. Kind of the elements, you know, the sum of the elements is more than the there's a saying for that I can't think of right now. Something about it's more than the sum of its parts. It's kind of that. But really, it does feel like, you know, if I were just going to summarize this really quickly, it looks like you guys are getting in touch with your roots. You're connecting with your family and what makes you feel wonderful about that. You're celebrating the seasons and the cycles that we're experiencing right now. You're finding a lot of joy. You're clearing away unhealthy patterns, and you're spiraling to a higher level of evolution in yourself and your understanding for good times, for spiritual satisfaction. It's like you're setting your boundaries emotionally, physically, psychic boundaries against, influences that might drain you, or bring some kind of challenge in that way. And you're really tapping into, I'm happy to be moving on to this new cycle. This is about bringing in new change, and what that change will look like will depend on each of you as individuals. Now, I did want to pull a card for you from the Animal Wise Tarot. Wow. Very powerful. So we have the card of death, which is the snake, shedding the old and resurrection. Very powerful card. It's the number 13 in the, excuse me. The death card is number 13 in the major arcana, indicating spiritual change, spiritual growth. Snake almost never, or death card, I guess, almost never indicates an actual death of a person, but rather about being reborn, so a rebirth symbol, metaphor. Ouroboros, if you think of the snake swallowing its tail, or you think about the snakes on the caduceus. I could be saying that wrong. I've never heard it said. I've only seen it in print. of the snakes that are wrapping themselves up around the staff in healing symbology that you see at hospitals or in pharmacies and so on. Shedding the old and resurrection. And just off the cuff, before I read that, this has a lot to do with the same, with the Seven of Wands clearing, but with the bear. The bear is very much about cycles, birth, death, renewal. Okay. The snake is one of the most archetypal symbols, a universal sign of healing, life, death, and rebirth. It is the epitome of transformation, and though often seen as a symbol of death, we forget that death is part of a larger cycle that includes rebirth. Death in the tarot, especially when depicted as the snake, does not in any way, shape, or form imply a physical death. However, it does indicate a transition, a shedding of the old so that the new can be born, reflecting a kind of resurrection at play within our lives. Snakes are amazing reptiles. From the moment they are born till the moment they die, they never stop growing. This is why they shed their skin. They have outgrown it. The snake's shedding of its skin reminds us that periodically we must shed what no longer fits or suits us. The cycle of death and rebirth, reflected in the shedding of the skin, is often symbolized by the Ouroboros, the ancient image of a snake swallowing its own tail, the symbol of the eternal cycle. Before snakes shed their skin, the eyes cloud over, giving the snake a trance-like appearance. To ancient shamans, this indicated the ability of the snake to move between the realms of the living and the dead. When snake appears in our lives, it often reflects opening to new realms and awakening spirit contact. Like the snake, these new realms and new spirit contacts often first raise their heads up during dreams. Although snakes have two eyes, they do not see very well, relying on their sensitivity to vibrations and to smell. Do not trust what you see, trust what you feel. You will feel the changes arriving before actually recognizing them. Snakes are also symbols of change and healing. They have speed and agility, so when snake comes into our life, the changes and transitions occur quickly and soon are recognized. Release any fears and do not resist the changes because they bring with them new expressions of creativity, wisdom, and strength. When snake appears, we will find opportunities for shedding the old and resurrecting some part of our life. Some questions to ask. Are we needing to make changes but aren't for some reason? Are we trying to force change too quickly? Are we hanging on to and not releasing what is no longer beneficial for us? Are we ignoring opportunities to heal our life? Yes. Are we hanging on to and not releasing what is no longer beneficial for us? Right? Clearance. Trying to force change too quickly. Again, this speaks to these cycles that we have up here that we're seeing. Cycles of change. They come whether we want them or not. It's about recognizing when our opportunity is upon us, when our door opens, not forcing the issue and not resisting it either, but merely sidestepping into our opportunity once it presents itself. Having a healthy relationship between what we can control and what we can't control.